Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm Donovan.
And I'm Jordan.
Join us as we go into the pages.
Podcast.
He is not the sunlit man.
Yes, he is.
This week we shall be going over chapters 11, 12, and 13. And yeah, he's not a sunlit man. They certainly
Not what they
wanted to
think
be.
he is. They think he is,
Yes.
but he's not.
I
This is always, I guess, starting with chapter 11. This is kind of like, I guess, again shows how these people are a little different. Because he comes out, he's like super honest. He's like, I'm not who you think I am, and they're like, yes,
Yes.
you are. And
which
like,
is like he's the opposite of Painter. Painter was like, yes, I am a hero.
yes, for a little bit, and even like the Frugal Wizard, like he kind of played it off a little bit. But I mean, this has been like he has a different approach too, because he's like, I'm not a sunlit man, like not even at all. And they're like, yes, you are, and he's like, what? Believe what you want. I don't even care.
Yeah, he still is
like,
set that way. He doesn't care.
Yeah, he's the same thing, because they're trying to get to this like cavern. They're like, we need to get here because it's a cavern that we won't have to run away from the sun anymore. It'll be safe. And he even tells them, he's like, it's not going to be that, like at all. And they're like, yes, it will. And he's like, all right, well, I try to tell you, and whatever.
He's
So it's
putting him
gonna
in a
it's gonna
level.
be like, it's definitely building towards, I think, like a same situation, because you have like, you lied. Except it's going to be kind of different, because they're going to be like, oh, you were telling the truth. And he's like, well, yeah. And they're going to be like, well, why didn't you try? Why did you like let us do it anyway? And he's like, because I wanted to get your too. And it's like, and I wonder if he's going to be callous and weird about it, or if he's going to like start to care about these people. And
Yeah, I
actually feel
already
bad.
kind of feel like he's getting that way. Ish. He finds the planet interesting, so he's
yeah, he has to keep stopping himself from analyzing it and being curious. He's
yeah.
like, no.
Because what were the clues we had? We should have like made a board or something. But one of them was like he was
Yeah, who is
yeah, right. He was a scholar of some sort, wasn't he?
Yeah, whenever mentioned it, he said he was a scholar. And
Okay, yeah. So his natural instinct. Oh, that would be hard if you're a scholar type of person and you go to all these worlds. Like,
I think he even mentions I don't know if it's in this chapter or chapter 12, but he mentions that after all the planets and places he's been to, it's hard not to be amazed by the novelties in each place.
I would have a hard time not, especially when you're like going to a different planet and all these new things. Like,
Yeah, but he's like trying not to be.
Yeah,
Like I think you and me would be like, wow, like yeah, this planet's so cool. Like, but
Definitely.
he's like, that's so cool. No, it can't be cool. Wow, no.
yeah.
And I'm like, just relax. So, and he's even confused. He's like, wow, I thought these people were gonna be like mad. But they're not.
They're a little too nice for it.
Yeah,
But I definitely felt like this. It felt a lot like reading Frugal Wizard again, kind of like
Very similar situation,
holy
yeah.
crap, I forgot his name now.
John.
Oh yeah, John. When
Yeah, I think it
John
was John, yeah.
got to this new world, and like he had all these amazing abilities, people were like, wow. The same thing here, like
Like they thought he was like some elf or something.
yeah. And I am kind of curious because it sounds like it could have been some sort of myth. It seems like who are these sunlit men? Are they just some legend, myth type of thing, storytelling thing on these people?
They do kind of talk about it a little bit.
Because it would be insane if there was being strong enough to survive this sun.
Yeah, and they say that's what they were. And you know how they have those. This is, I guess, more of a Robert Jordan thing. You know how he begins all his books. He's like, when an age ends, I'm totally gonna butcher it, but it's like myths become legends and legends become forgotten or something like that, or like.
Oh yeah.
So it kind of seems like it's that. Like maybe they weren't able to survive directly in the sun indefinitely, but maybe they were able to like use it more than they.
So
are
it's just
able
one of
to.
those things that as the years have gone by, it's like you get less and less of the truth.
Yeah, it's
okay.
maybe it was like. Because it's like invested, and so there's power there, and so maybe they were the type of people like they were able to use it somehow, and that like you said, like is downgraded throughout the years to be they survived in it and were able to do, and maybe they were. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's like totally true.
Yeah, this is Brandon's world. Who the flip knows what's
Yeah.
going?
Because what we do know is that these people are not natives to this planet; they're from the
Yeah,
Threnodites
because it's the
system.
Threnodites.
And we do get some interesting insights
Yes.
into that, which I thought was pretty cool.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. And one insight one little thing. I don't know why I like things like that. I like knowing like timelines and timetables and like when things are happening. And
I agree 100%, especially with this. It's because we're just like, okay, Nomad is freaking from the original Bridge 4, and he's been spending decades traveling. What the heck? Where is this at?
yeah, years and years and years.
And he's always talking about years and years and decades.
And
and
when
stuff.
Wit was talking about like, oh, you've prevented calamity. So I'm like, what the crap, Brandon?
Oh, man.
Like if I had known this was gonna, hopefully it doesn't spoil. I would have read this after. But whatever. I'm sure I still have trust in Brandon, but I'm still kind of like peeved.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we find out. So we know that they have like this disc, which is like this key card to get into a Scadrian research facility, essentially. And there's just like one little sentence. The Cinder King has spent years trying to find a way through the door. And so I'm like, okay. It's like, what do these Scadrians think about this? Because are they still there?
That's what
Is
I'm
this
kind of
thing
wondering.
abandoned?
I mean, I assumed it was abandoned when we first read about it, but I mean, Nomad is even like, man, there might be Scadrians in there.
But he makes it seem like it would be not likely to, because he says like maybe it's abandoned. He's like, no, not likely. Because this is specifically for research. So unless they like got here and it was a lot more hostile than they thought, because of how the sun just instantly melts anything that they did all die.
Yeah, maybe.
But they even mentioned that they found they made it seem like this key card was a semi-recent find, and they found it on a dead body of someone who died in a mudslide. And so it wasn't someone, they didn't like find it laying on the ground. They didn't find it on a burned up corpse. They found it on a body of someone who died in a mudslide.
And that must have been a Scadrian, right?
Yeah,
Who? Because
he says he could read it. And it was from it was like from a lieutenant, and it was how he got it was his access key.
yeah, and
so
the Scadrian had the only one. Who could
So like
have
there's
it.
Scadrians there. Like every once in a while, they just hear like the Sun King like banging on the door. They're like, oh, that's just the crazy local trying to get in.
That'd be really funny to think about.
You imagine
Actually.
like a scientist like, he's back. Be quiet.
Oh man, do you remember the second Riddick movie?
Like bits and pieces.
I'm getting serious vibes with that too, because they were on a planet in that movie that was very similar to this, where like they literally can't survive on the surface, and it's just barren and like a wasteland on the surface, and like, but they have like bunkers and stuff, and there was a prison down there and everything under the ground and everything. But I kind of imagine this is that.
I can see that.
Maybe Brandon watched that movie and got inspiration. There was something.
But he's like, no. Oh, sorry.
I mean, if you're gonna keep going on this thought, go for it.
I was just gonna kind of go back to what we were talking about. Like Nomad's been really bold and like straightforward. Of like, he's not like letting them have expectations of him, but they're still doing it. Like,
I wonder if it's because of his experience with other worlds. I'm sure, because like everyone has problems. Every world has problems and wars and all these things that he probably maybe in the past he kind of got involved and then had to leave and let these people down or something. Or maybe it's what happened is what he's always fearing is like, oh, I can't get involved because if I stay here, the Night Brigade is going to find me, type of thing. So maybe he just learned that it's just pointless to be like, oh, yeah, well, he's like, no.
because they say, and this man here, he came from the refuge of stone. So they like say like, you're from that place, and he's like, yeah, you're wrong.
Which is actually really nice.
And then, but then he says, but I don't particularly care what you believe. And then he's just like, do you know where this is? Like, where is this place? And kind of skipping ahead a little bit to chapter 12, we find out that nothing is the same about this landscape. There's no landmarks. There's every time the sun passes over, it completely obliterates everything that's there, and it changes 100%.
Yeah, and apparently I didn't think about this, but it's hot enough. I assume because of the investigator, but it's hot enough to melt stone.
Yeah.
So yeah, like nothing stays the same. There was a bit in chapter 11 that I thought was interesting. First of all, we actually learned what he called the one guy Ember Eyes, right? And that's the I'm not forgetting.
Cinder King.
Yes, he's called the Cinder King, but the other people are called the Charred.
Yeah, Charred.
So I thought that was nice to kind of learn. But it seems like these people worship Aiden Alcium.
Straight up, and there's
always like
there's no question, because there's one part where they straight up say
like Aiden Alcium will bless us in this endeavor.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
So like that kind of like struck me as like, are these like is this like a total switch? Like we've seen things where this king guy, I already forgot his name. What the frick?
Cinder King.
Cinder. My gosh.
Cinder
One of those
King.
things. So we get this thing where like the Cinder King looks super evil. He was killing people. So we are like, okay, this is obviously he's not a good guy type of thing. But then we find out these guys worship Aiden Alcium, and he's not a good guy, right? I mean, like I don't know anything about him. But
The only thing that I know about Aiden Alcium was he was the big dude, and then he was killed, and his pieces of him were ripped apart and turned into the shards. It was never really explained why they killed him or why they rose up against him for whatever reason.
So we don't know who's evil, Aiden Alcium or the shards. Okay, so I was thinking he was an evil guy, and maybe that's why like
And
Hoy.
it hasn't been as long as I thought it had been.
Oh really?
So we
felt
get
longer than.
So we get to that because after they kind of, in chapter 11, when they say Aiden Alcium will bless us, Nomad kind of presses a little bit. He's like, oh, like, why do you, a bunch of Threnodites, worship the father god of an entirely different planet? And then they're not surprised by that. It's like, oh, yeah, we learned before our Exodus. So, like, they remember being on Threnodite and Threnodite being hell. And then, but apparently they left before he was killed. And then Auxiliary kind of steps in because they can say, and Alcium will remember our plight eventually and come save us, is what the impression is. But then Auxiliary kind of says, the cynical squire wisely chooses not to explain to these people the sad reality of their god's demise some 10,000 years before.
Yeah.
So,
So I thought
so
that sounded right to me, but I mean,
but in 10,000 years, everything that's happened on Roshar, like their whole past, everything that's happened on Scadrial, their whole past, has all been within 10,000 years.
No, I didn't think about it like
Entire
that.
planets. Each of these shards have created entire planets, entire cultures, entire people with histories and legends. In 10,000 years,
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Wow.
I was thinking like way longer than that.
Yeah, you think of our planet, you think they need a couple million years at least.
Yeah, like 10,000 years.
I guess shards work
Is
faster.
all it's been.
That is insane. That is also cool to kind of think too that like that's how old Hoyt is.
Yeah.
He's over 10,000 years old.
Hoyt is probably like 10,000, 30 years old. However,
Right.
however old he was when they killed
That's
him.
kind of what I thought too. He's just like he's a shade over 10,000 years old. So that is insane to think about Hoyt being that old, but a planet being that young is what it feels like. That's something I didn't think about that. But dang, they move fast in these shard planets.
Yeah,
What the heck?
that's kind of what I thought when I saw that. I was like, wow.
Because the shards created the planets, right? Like
Yeah.
preservation created Scadrial and stuff.
Yeah, they all went their own way. Like, no, preservation and ruin together made Scadrial.
Oh, I was thinking preservation. I always forget the
Yeah. But then, then Sazed made them into harmony. But
were they separate always until Sazed came around?
they were two separate things.
I thought they had like been together and then they got separated, then brought back together. Oh.
No, because remember, the mist was preservation,
Yeah.
and whatever that metal is that lets you see into the future a little bit was ruin.
Gold, I think. Or no, Antium?
Yeah, something like that. ATM.
ATM, yeah, that's what it was. Not
was his body. So they were separate, and then when they both died, there were two different things, and he went out and grabbed both of them. Sazed did.
Okay. We need to go over freaking Mistborn because I forgot a lot.
Yeah, this part would be a good one to go through.
That'd be way fun. But yeah, I kind of didn't trust them because they worshipped Aiden Alcium, but maybe that's not a bad thing. And I also was kind of thinking maybe they're just naive, and
10,000 years.
they don't.
It's
really
been 10,000 years. And
Yeah. They don't even know he's dead. So I mean,
So
how-
have they been on this sun planet for 10,000 years?
that seems unlikely.
Because they believed in and worshipped Aiden Alcium before they don't know he's dead. And so maybe the Threnodite in general doesn't know that he's dead.
So I can't remember. Does Threnodite have a shard? Or whatever that planet is called?
I don't know if they mentioned it in the one story we have from there, because
Yeah.
that one story was so solely focused on that inn, and
Yeah, I don't remember. If
it wasn't really like a Hoyd perspective, so there wasn't any like.
And the only
hints.
thing Arcanum Unbounded said was just like there was a battle between Odium and some other shard there, but nothing specific about a shard that rules over this planet type of thing. So I was just kind of thinking, like, they don't even know that Aiden Austin is dead and that there's all these shards everywhere that are the remains of his power. So maybe they are just a little behind the times.
Which makes sense, at least on this planet, because they're just constantly having to run and move, and like they're like forced nomads.
Yeah, and how the heck did they get to this planet? That's a big thing I want to know.
I don't know. Maybe these ships used to be able to fly, because in chapter 12 they mentioned that there's one place where these mountains keep growing and growing and growing, and their ships aren't able to fly up over them.
Yeah,
and so maybe these were like the drop ships from their mothership, and their mothership exploded. I don't know.
That really could be, honestly.
And we also find out that the people on Beacon they're not as populated as I thought. There's only 150 people.
I thought there would have been more. Like,
yeah, so I thought it was a city, but this is definitely a village. So that kind of confirms like why. Okay, I guess that's why they have like the greater good, a village council.
Yeah,
like there's only 50 of them. So I'm like 150 of them. So I'm like, okay, that kind of makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
And they make decisions together, because like they kind of decide to team up with Nomad, like the greater good. They're like, yeah, we'll work with you, and together we'll find this place, but we need to get the people's okay on it first, like before we can like 100% say, yeah, let's do this. Like we need to talk to them.
I thought that was super interesting because we don't have anything like that on our planet.
Yeah.
Like the leaders on our planet here on Oath are more interested in giving half truths to kind of convince us to go the way that they want and not give us the full story.
Yeah.
But these guys are like, they need to know everything. And
they even said that, like, we need to be honest and we need to be bold, like we need to tell them.
Yeah, and there was even some other guy who came up and was like, oh, we got this problem too. It's like, okay, we can make sure to bring that problem up to everyone as well.
So pretty cool.
Which is relieving.
Oh, another thing that I wanted to note is Nomad does not age.
I was going to bring that up next. Like, how the frick does he not age?
And he said that he stopped aging when he was 38. And
yeah.
Kaladin
was
young.
early 20s. He was maybe 21, 22.
So I thought they were all similar age, or
I don't remember.
Was there people?
I think there was people who were older. Like Rock was older.
Yeah, because Rock has like a full-on family.
Yeah, but I don't know how old everyone else was. And what's his name? The guy who had Lopin, he was older too. I'm pretty sure, like way older. But so that could be. I don't know how. We don't know who Nomad is yet. Dang, we need.
I do, and all these hints are like so obvious. It's like agonizing.
Dang it!
But I don't want to like give you too many obvious clues that are only obvious because I know who it is.
It's totally one of those things. Like there's that one game that you play that's like you get a card and it gives you like a really random bit of words to say, and it's supposed to say a word or a sentence. And then,
if you like say it fast.
So if you say it, you like, cannot hear it, but the other people were like, I totally hear it. They can even see the answer. Like I hear it. You're saying it every single time. You're like, I don't know what it is. That's how I feel right now.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. That's exactly what's happening.
I wanted to go into something too because I don't think I remember as much as I thought I did. What is the Dawn Shard?
Unfortunately, I do not remember.
Dang it. Is it in the book, Dawn Shard?
Yeah,
that's the one with the little girl, right?
No, so this is. I don't remember if they really are super like, this is what a Dawn Shard is. But I know there is one on Roshar. And it is on that island that's like protected by those bug people. What the crap are they called? Dang it. One of them was in Midnight, or was in, you mean the Nightmare Painter.
The girl?
Yeah, because it's like a hive mind type thing
that makes it one body.
Like they can make their shells look like certain things and change their sizes.
See, I really.
Dang it. But it's on that island, and then that Thalen lady. Dang it. She's a trader, and not a trader. She trades. She's a merchant. And she's the one that jumped off the great shell and is paralyzed, and she has that like really specialized wheelchair made by Navani that can float.
You don't meet her very much, do you? Is she one of the main characters?
She does have some important parts. She has her own, like, the whole side story is all about her. And in the main story, the important part she plays is she gets attacked by the bad guys that are similar to Shallan and their powers.
Not the Ghost Bloods, though.
No, not the Ghost Bloods. They're the Return,
Void?
the Voidbringers.
It's the one of the Voidbringers?
Yeah, but they're like the main ones, not like
Dude.
not the Parshendi or the.
This is the problem when you read epic fantasies years ago.
No!
Like, there's so much going on, you can't remember it all.
But anyways, because she's in the bank and they have the sphere that never goes out.
Okay.
That's used to imprison the battle lust thing. You know what I'm talking about. But anyways, getting out of that, because now I'm getting in the mud and I'm getting out of this. But so the Dawn Shard, if you remember, so they go to the island and they find this thing. It's called the Dawn Shard, and it like possesses her, like it becomes part of her.
Okay.
And they're like, "Oh, we must protect you." But now apparently Nomad has that.
Yeah, does he have the Dawn Shard, or has he just been touched by it type of thing, and now it like makes it so he can't?
I think the way it's talking, it kind of makes it seem like he has it, or maybe the people, because it seems like the Night Brigade is after it, and he's like,
yeah, that actually maybe
so
that's
maybe
why.
he isn't it, because whenever he describes it, all he says is that they'll have the next link in the chain to get what they want.
So maybe that would make sense that they need the Dawn Shard.
So he has something, but he also makes it seem like it's like his torment is that. So it's not simply that he has information about it. Like something about him is the clue, or is the next step. Because like they said, like they, to get the information out of him, they would torture him, and his insides would see the sun for the first time. Is the way he described it.
Yeah, which I thought was funny.
So I was like, that sounds kind of painful.
Yeah. But the whole point is he's somehow affected by the Dawn Shard,
Yes.
which does something to him.
Yeah, it gives him this torment somehow.
And he doesn't age anymore.
Yes, he doesn't age.
So he has the potential right now to be as old as Hoyt, I think. So that actually was another clue too for me, like a little piece of Hoyt's history. Like maybe he had something similar. Maybe he came in contact with the Dawn Shard or something very similar to it, so he doesn't age, or at least he ages very slowly or something.
Oh, another interesting factoid. I don't know if I. Yeah, 'cause right here. So he'd been 38 when time had finally stopped. When time had finally stopped tracking him, his soul bending under the Dawn Shard's influence.
Oh yeah, that's the part that I was thinking of.
So that's the part that made me think that he was the Dawn Shard. But that now reading it now, like that could mean so many different things.
I mean,
The
that
Dawn
totally
Shard doing something to him.
Yeah.
The Dawn Shard like being with him and infecting him.
But maybe you said that one girl, the girl in the wheelchair, got possessed by the Dawn Shard.
Yeah, like
Like,
it's
did
like
actually,
it was like in something, and then she touched it, and like it now she is the Dawn Shard because the people that were protecting the island are now protecting her.
Oh, okay. And that's when didn't Lopen go there?
Yeah, Lopen was,
was like-
Lopen
it was
and another night.
It was like
two
it was
nights.
Lopen's point of view for the whole story, wasn't it?
No, he did have. It was like him, and her. It was like switched between those.
Oh,
two.
but it was still from her perspective.
It was mainly her perspective, but there were some parts that were from Lopen's
Okay,
perspective.
it's all coming back to me now.
It's
Okay,
all
so
coming back,
but
so
did she get actually like possessed? Was she like a zombie-eyed thing?
No.
But she it was just like in her, and she had some sort of power now.
think like Men in Black,
Uh-huh.
and that lady that was the light of Zarta.
Okay,
Kind of like that's kind of like the impression
like
I
she
got.
was the light, but she's not.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at. Because if that's the case, and the Dawn Shard doesn't like possess you and take control of your mind and your body, then maybe Nomad does have it.
Yeah.
That would make a lot of sense why the Night Brigade is after him. The Dawn Shard definitely seems like a powerful object that would
Like maybe they're trying to collect, because it says closer to their goal. So maybe they're trying to collect all the Dawn Shards, and it's like some Dragon Ball Z thing.
Yeah.
Like you get all the Dawn Shards, and the dragon appears, and you get a wish. Oh, and awesome. But anyways, what I was getting at, I don't know. I just thought this was interesting. I like learning things about these little planets that you don't really get.
Yeah.
Apparently, so he's 38, and then he says, and that was by his planet's accounting, which had longer years.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I had that in my notes too. That like Roshar has longer years.
And I was like, how do they even measure years?
Yeah.
Because for us, you have spring, you have summer, winter, fall, but them like they'll talk about like, oh, it's been winter for a week, and I can't wait until it's summer again.
Oh, I wish it was like that.
And so I'm like, how the heck do they measure years? I guess it's by the storms or somehow they measure a year by.
Don't they measure the year by like how long it takes the planet to rotate, or so the sun, not this, how long it takes our planet to rotate. That determines how long a day is, and then how long it takes our planet to go around the sun is how long a year is. That's what I thought. How our time was measured or discovered. I would figure it was the same.
I believe you.
Okay, so I figured it was the same thing. So that kind of made me think that.
But that's like us having like astronomical knowledge. Like, do the people of Roshar, I don't think have that. So I'm just like, how do they? Because like like before that they were like, oh, by the moon, and like just by like the seasons. And so I'm like trying to figure out something similar for Roshar.
So I think that's how they kind of they tell what season it is. Like, oh, it's winter because this happened, or it's fall because that happened.
It's like winter for like a few weeks.
But like, I mean, you can go back and look at our history, and like, there's astronomers who figured all this crap out before we had satellites and stuff.
That's a good point.
So I mean, that's kind of, I'm just kind of feeling a knowledge from how our ancestors did it. Maybe that's just how Roshar people did it. Like, they got people who just were like Nomad and just found things interesting and started studying them and learned these things. But I think that means that I don't know if it's bigger than Earth, but I'm thinking that this planet they're on now is small. That's how they can, first of all, like, get away from the sun. And that's why the time on this planet is quicker.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, especially jumping ahead again to chapter 13. We're kind of talking about everything and while staying in chapter 11. But in chapter 13, Rebecca?
I think it's
Rebecca is talking about kind of the Cinder King's influence, and he says, since she kind of points out that he's able to push people, like if you're within a certain area of the equator, like you're under his influence, or you're out by the poles, and you're just not as easily influenced by him. So spaceships are fast, but I don't think they could circle Earth in a day.
No, I don't think so either.
So yeah, small planet.
I feel like we're talking so much Cosmere stuff that I'm getting lost in like where we're
I don't like where the hell
story.
are we in this dang story.
Okay, so yeah, diving a little deeper into chapter 12, they're headed out because now Nomad has convinced them to let them help him, or to let him help them find this door. And he's like, I can read this language. I can probably read what's on the door. If there's anything on the door, I could probably talk to the people if there's people in there, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so they're out looking for it. And this is kind of where we found out that the sun melts the very stone of this planet. So they kind of have to like send out a search party. Like I kind of envisioned it like they have a ship that's like a metal detector. It can detect energy that they have to kind of fly around because the area has melted. So they kind of know generally where it's at, but they got to find it again. Yeah,
Nomad even mentions, like, he says kind of offhandedly, he's like, that's kind of a big thing to measure investiture. So he's at least assuming that it picks up investiture. And then we also learn kind of like
something
interesting
dark.
We find out why there's no shades on this planet, even though these are Threnodites.
Yes. And we find out why.
And what's powering these ships.
Yeah, and we kind of find out like why there's. I was thinking at the beginning that the people who were sacrificed to the sun, the people who like the Ember people, the Charred, like the people that they were chasing around their little game of tag, like why they were doing. I thought they were like criminals of some sort because they were talking against the people in power type of thing.
Yeah, like they were being executed. It seemed like they were being executed.
But it's actually more of a sacrifice type of thing.
Yes, because these batteries that fuel these ships, they call them sun hearts, and it kind of seems like a name. Like, okay, that's just a name, but it's like a very literal meaning, because apparently, when one of these people die in the sun, their soul is like compressed into like this supercharged thing, and it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And they're at first, so, and Nomad's kind of like, so I that thing I absorbed was someone's soul.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but he said they got 1,000 BEUs from it. So it's like, that's more than one soul. So one soul doesn't give you 1,000 BEUs. So him and Auxiliary are kind of able to reason out. They're like, okay, so apparently when these people are burned by the sun, something happens that the sun, like, I don't know, it's like it's almost like Stormlight is how they say it. Like,
Yeah, that's what
almost
I
like
thought.
almost like the person's soul, like, turns into a capsule and the sun
Sun charges
powers
it,
it or something.
Yeah.
And and it's not indefinite. Like, it runs out and has to be renewed by someone else dying. And it's like a sacrifice that every city on this planet has to have people that do that. Otherwise, they can't outrun the planet. So, like, yeah, like here in Beacon, we ask for volunteers. The Cinder King forces people into it, but like it's necessary. Like if someone doesn't sacrifice, we all die.
Yeah. And the sad thing kind of that happened that we find out is the Sunheart powering the ship they're on is Rebecca's mother.
Yeah, but she's like really tender about it. She's like, yeah, this is my mom. And
yeah.
She's so nice.
And it sounded like, if I remember right, her mom was sick or something. So
yeah, she said the volunteers they ask for are elderly and sick.
Yeah.
And it made it seem like they don't really need it super often.
Because I kind of got to figure that's how it is.
Beacon only has 150 people.
That would go pretty quick if it lasts like a week.
Yeah, so it must last a while before you need it.
That was kind of something I wanted to theorize about. It was like how long do these Sunhearts last? Because
I don't know. It's got to be a while.
It seems like these ships have got to take a lot of power. Like that doesn't seem like it's something like you could run on a AA battery. No, you gotta have like 7,000 of those things or something.
Yeah, seriously. And the greater good elders even mentioned part of their motivation. So they had their motivation of finding this refuge. Their motivation of finding this refuge is escape the Cinder King, get away from the sun to be able to settle, and they're running out of sun hearts. And which now we realize is twofold. They're running out of the ones they already have, and they're running out of people to be able to sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like eventually there's going to be no one left. And so it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, eventually. This actually, I was kind of curious if this would happen. It probably doesn't, or else they would have figured this out. But I was kind of like, could you just leave the Sunhearts out in the sun, come back the next cycle and be charged? Kind of like a sphere in a storm, high storm. But
maybe they haven't even tried that.
But that kind of seems like one of those things. Like, do you think that'd be something they would try? Because
or maybe it's one of those things. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, totally. Like, people are dying. They're volunteering. So it's okay.
Maybe it does require a living soul to die. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But and that's actually the original purpose of these ships that are these big metal detectors, as you described it, is when someone sacrifices themselves. Obviously, you can't like wait around and like pick it up right after. Like they have to sacrifice themselves. You have to go all the way around the planet and remember vaguely where they were, and then use these ships to find it.
Yeah. So that's how they originally came around those ships. And this is also introduced a little bit more is the small ship that Nomad and Rebecca are on splits even more than it already did.
Yeah, it can split into 4.
Yeah, and I thought this was interesting because they talk about how the smaller ship that Nomad eventually takes does not have a Sunheart, but does have a battery, and it lasts for a few hours. If you got to take it back to
an hour, so not even that long.
Oh, was it just an hour?
It's just an hour.
So that's another thing too. Is like these Sunhearts must be massive, full of energy. I mean to say, because like one battery can only power the smallest ship that there is for an hour before it has to come back and get charged. So the Sunhearts must be pretty full of energy.
I think so. Because I mean, if you think about it, like charge an entire. I guess it's still an inefficient battery for an hour, but I mean, still, it's like a freaking hovercraft that can fly fast enough to go around an entire planet.
Are you kidding me? Like, if they came out with those tomorrow, I'd buy one. I don't need a hovercraft to last more than an hour.
Right?
That'd be awesome. Just whoop whoop to work and stuff. But I guess I also thought that kind of meant that they don't have a better source of energy than the Sunhearts. Because they've obviously got other technology that can hold power. They got batteries. They're just not enough. I'm sure they need a lot more power than just 1 hour's worth to float those cities around.
We also learned that the Beacon and the people in Beacon used to live under the reign or rule of the Cinder King. And like the Cinder King was originally saying everyone needs to unite and we need to be together in order to survive. And he created Unity, which is, I guess, the name of his city. And it wasn't until he had already gained a lot of people that he started to kind of be a little crazy and like tyrannical. And it's just kind of more recently that they split off and have been doing their own thing.
Yeah. I am curious to know how many people are on Unity. If it's like a few thousand, or if they're I want to know how close they are to being in a similar position as the people on Beacon and all these rebels. Like, are they like only a few hundred? So it's kind of like they need to find a new way to live, or else everyone's just going to eventually die because they need to be sacrificed to power the city. Or if maybe the Cinder King just wants to gain more power, so he found this thing that he believes might be something that can give him more power.
Could be like all of that.
Yeah, we have no idea how he discovered the door.
I don't know
it's Union?
His city's name is Union. I don't know. I think I said Unity. Union is the name of his city.
Still similar. One thing that something I found interesting is we learn a little bit more about when the Cinder King was going to power, and this is just kind of about how he chooses people to be sacrificed.
It's a lottery. Once a rotation. Do you think a rotation means like a year?
I think a day.
So once a day he sacrifices like.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, the lottery happened once a rotation. That's kind of what I think is.
It seems like he would run out of people really fast.
Yeah, that is crazy. But how many does he choose? He choose one person a day, or 10, or 50?
Or maybe he doesn't sacrifice them immediately. He's just picking them. And then
I think he's. I wonder if he is just kind of picking them to go into the rotation of the sacrifice type of thing. And maybe he's doing that to find people to turn into the charred, or to be sacrificed, or some people he can just absorb for himself.
Which, speaking of absorbing, we'll get to that.
But yeah, this planet is quite harsh. They got this cruel Cinder King, and then on top of that, well, more like they've got this planet they've got to survive with the sun like constantly on their tail, going to burn them all up. And then on top of that, they've got now this Cinder King who is not a good person.
And we find out that apparently everyone on this planet has a very unique, I don't know if I would call it an ability, but something that happens.
Yeah.
If when they touch someone, they start to suck away that person's heat. And then, like, I guess if you let it go on too long, it'll kill you.
Yeah, and this is when we discover why the Cinder King was so shocked when he touched Nomad and nothing happened.
Yeah, because apparently it's also, I guess it's not heat, actually. It's they're sucking your investiture, which the side effect is you take the heat away. And what makes the Cinder King unique is he's able to do it very quickly and very powerfully, with the effect of he drains everything out of you and absorbs your investiture. And we find out that he's done that to thousands of people.
Yeah, so Ox pipes up on this spot and tells us
that he's super invested, so I better watch out.
He's probably super powerful. So it's probably actually a good thing, now that I think about it, that it's probably a good thing that Rebecca and the other rebels came and like saved Nomad in the process of doing their own thing, because maybe Nomad would not have been strong enough to withstand him, and maybe if he actually would have stabbed him or tried to take his power again, he wouldn't have been able to hold his own against the Cinder King.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Especially like thousands of. Okay, so we know that, was it 1,000 BEUs from the one Soul Heart?
You got 1,000, yeah.
So if he did, if the Cinder King has absorbed thousands, he could literally have.
Well, because he said that wasn't actually like one soul wouldn't provide that much. Like the sun had been adding something to it. So I think if you're just grabbing, someone.
So if he's just grabbing someone, he's not getting the sun heart.
One soul.
I was thinking if he had absorbed thousands of sun hearts. So maybe he's only at a few thousand.
So he's still strong, but I don't know. I think he's strong enough to be formidable, but I don't know if he's like leagues above. Maybe like similar level of, I don't know. But yeah.
Yeah, I think he's a little closer to Nomad than I was thinking.
Oh, and we also find out the name of the planet of Warbreaker.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
I totally missed it.
Because when he learns that their souls, he talks about there's a planet called Nauthis.
Oh, yes.
And it's a nice place, but they buy, sell, and trade souls. And that's how BEUs are measured, is based on their system. And he's like, at least the transaction there left you alive. So like, oh, cool. So Warbreaker takes place on Nalthis. Now we now know the name of that planet.
How long's Brandon been waiting to friggin' tell us that?
Right.
Was that in chapter 12 or 13?
This is we're now on like the first couple pages of chapter 13.
Where it says Nalthis?
Yeah, it's like literally if like you go on the chapter 13, you go over one page, it's like just a couple sentences in. It's like it wasn't unprecedented. Nomad hadn't been to Nalthis. This place sounded nice and had nice, but he didn't go there because the Night Brigade would be easier to find him if he went to a nice place.
That's a really cool piece of. How long has Warbreaker been out? And we're now
A long time. I think wasn't it one of the first books he wrote?
That's right, it was, because he like wrote a bunch of standalones, and that's like how Elantris and Warbreaker came about.
Yeah.
Jeez, he doesn't like to give us it easy.
I know.
I was thinking also after we learned that the sun hearts are made from like the people who are burned up by the sun, that eliminates another possible power source for Nomad, because I don't know if he could still use it, but it's kind of be like, it's going to conflict with his morals maybe, and he's going to be like, oh, this is someone's like soul, and he won't want to absorb it to make it skip.
I could see it like playing a part. I think right now at this point in the story, he's not going to care, but I can definitely see it like weighing on him later on as he like gets to care about these people more.
Yeah.
Like I can see like I can definitely see like, you know, at the critical moment of the story, you know, he's about to make the decision, do I leave or do I stay and fight? And he's going to be holding up one of these stones and he's going to be like, oh, this is a person, and then he's going to decide to not do it or something like that. I don't know.
That's what I think. Like he's not just going to try to bust open another ship and take the power source and absorb it, but maybe it'll be just like, this person's already dead, so I might as well.
Oh yeah, right here. I just want to read this part just because it's informational. So this is Ox saying, one soul's worth, even with a shade attached, wouldn't be enough to absorb over 1,000 BEUs of investiture like we did. So there must be some other force filling the stone, like Stormlight on Roshar. The sunlight must be invested, as we guessed. It's supercharging the remnants of the soul as the person is killed. So I guess I bet that if Nomad were to be killed in the sun, he wouldn't turn into a sun heart. I think it seems like based on that, it has something to do with the fact that when these people die in the normal other places, they turn into a shade. So there's like a piece of them left, and then that part of them is turned into a sunstone. So in a way, these ships are being powered by super powerful shades.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I'm also curious, how the heck do they absorb? How is it that they can touch someone and start sucking their investiture? Because they even talked about, Rebecca even talked about how like it can happen by accident.
Yeah, like you just brush against someone.
You're getting down with your woman or something, and then suddenly she's dead.
Well, they did specifically mention sex.
Yes, that's why I brought it up.
Because he was like, what about sex? And she's like, well, with sex, this is weird that I had to tell you this, but like it's like they're trading it back and forth. So it's like he takes it from her, then she takes it back, and then it's kind of going back and forth as you're doing it. Which I was like, that sounds stressful.
Yeah, honestly, that does. Like,
but I guess if you're just in constant contact with each other, maybe it's just like goes back and forth. I don't know.
It is really weird. But
that's another reason why there's only 150 people.
They can't procreate fast enough. Oh, geez. Oh well, yeah. This whole the last two chapters at least, it's kind of just like this stuff going back and forth. They're just kind of traveling, looking for the door.
Yeah, and then in the process of looking, they notice a scout, which I guess is
Which actually, what I liked is that Ox is the one who noticed the scout.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then pointed out to Nomad, who then pointed out to Rebecca, and blah blah.
Oh, another thing to mention, I think is important, is the person who initiates the touch is the one who draws forth the investiture.
Yeah, which is still so weird. Like how?
Yeah, so I guess in an accident when you bump into each other, who initiated that?
That's a good dang question.
I guess the investiture decides like, oh, this person was walking south, so he instigated it. I don't know.
There's got to be something like that.
One thing I just thought was interesting is Nomad kind of gets a little annoyed with Auxiliary. He's like, you don't have to describe what your emotions are, and he's like, if you don't just like use inflection and stuff in your tone, and Auxiliary's kind of like, well, unfortunately, side effect of being dead is that I'm monotone. It's kind of like, and Nomad's like, oh shit, well, it's fine.
Yeah. And actually, I thought this was interesting, just because I even though it's like so obvious that Ox is a sprint, like it's not even hardly a question, but it's still like in chapter 13 we get the first time where Nomad kind of, like, or the narrator kind of thinks of him as the Spren. It says the Spren, so I'm like, okay. Thank you.
Like we actually have okay.
Yes. We're not crazy after all.
I totally know what you mean. Even though there's like all these obvious hints, we're like, well, really?
Yes.
Like, is this actually what?
Especially since it's because we just had little things that were confusing. Like you were like, what are Olds? Like he didn't know what the Night Radiant Olds were. Right? They're called Olds, right?
Olds. Yeah. Wait, when he said that?
Didn't he? Like, yeah, he said he was like he just says like, what Olds? It was what Ox said in earlier chapters.
Oh, I thought that was more like a dig than it was like ignorance.
I thought it was ignorance. Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought it was more like, like someone's like saying that they're a pious religious person.
It could have been.
But
I
they're
could have
really
been.
not.
I could have totally read that wrong.
I kind of more read it like, oh, what oaths? Like, what oaths? Like, you broke your oaths and then you killed me, you bastard. That's kind of like how I read it.
That's totally what it was. That's really funny. That's how it was.
So they see the scout, or Nomad Auxiliary sees the scout, and freaking what's her name? Rebecca's initial reaction is she wants to charge after him, but Nomad's like, no, let's be careful. And
Nomad's
his training comes through, and he's able to strategically work it so it makes it seem like they're just doing normal patrols, and then gets close, and then the chapter ends like,
literally,
get him now,
yeah, like now we'll get him.
So. Yeah, this book is good. This is like just full
Holy
of
crap. Yeah, seriously,
full of things going on, and I think it's just further proof, or just further evidence or insight that Roshar is kind of like at the center of everything that's going on.
That is how I felt. I always felt that way, but I thought it was because the Way of Kings was the first one that I read.
Yeah, and so. I think it's in a large part twofold, in my opinion. One, that's like where the main battle with like Odium is right now, and Odium's the one that's like, along with what's her name, Ambition.
She was the one who was on Scadrial.
Yeah, and it seems like Odium is like the big baddie trying to kill everything, and Ambition's kind of like similar but not as baddie.
Like she kind of wants power in this new world,
yeah,
still type of thing.
But then also we learned from the Ghostbloods that Stormlight is one of the only neutral like investiture, like almost anyone can use. It can be used for almost anything. Like you don't have to have like special abilities. Like in Scadrial,
yeah, you have
to be a Metalborn in order to use the investiture of that planet.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
And but with Stormlight, it's investiture that can be captured and stored, and then the whole goal of the Ghostbloods is trying to figure out how to take that and distribute it and use it.
Were they using it for anything?
Well, I mean, they use it for light, obviously. They use it for their fabrials, and they use it as like a power source for a lot of things. And so it's like...
I was trying to think if there was like something... Because I'm sure that maybe we haven't been revealed this, or maybe I haven't, I can't remember, but they have to have found a way to use Stormlight to power weapons or something.
Yeah, it's just around the corner. Shard blades and shard plates have been so like overwhelmingly powerful that maybe there hasn't been a lot of motivation. But with like Ravani specifically, like making all these inventions and crazy things,
and like I could see that happening with like there's not shards blades for everyone to have. So the people who want to control things and seize power need to have a way to do that. So yeah. I absolutely can see them coming up with some sort of storm light powered weapons. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool too.
Even though if they're like killing all the radiants, I'm like, no, but that's cool still.
I guess it would depend on how it worked. Like, I bet there would be a one weapon that would just shoot like a concentrated stormlight, just like.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think.
That if like a night radiant was good enough, they could just be like absorb it.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Or like. or something like along those lines would be pretty cool. Or like it just like a really, they would use it the same way we use gunpowder. Like they would use it like just shoot a projectile really fast, or like guns. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways you could take it, but
Yeah. That would be really interesting though if they like made like an energy grenade or something and they chuck it at night radiant and they're just like, oh thanks, whoop.
I wouldn't be surprised because they have the opposite. Remember the Voidbringers have that thing that they activate it sucked away Kaladin's Stormlight.
Yeah, so like they could do something like that because there was a
That would be a
similar
really good
thing,
grenade against Radiance. Just chuck that and sucks all their Stormlight out, turns
Yeah.
into normal dudes.
especially if they're like the
Winning.
wind runners and they're flying in the air, just like then they fall to their death.
Oh yeah, you see a thing of Windrunners flying at you and your AA gun just Stormlight gone.
Yeah,
Dead.
no
That would
kidding.
suck.
That would way suck. I hope they don't invent that now. Oh man, so far this is turning out to be like one of my favorite books.
Yeah, that's really good. Just because of all the
Just because of all the references and all the things that I feel like we're learning. All the dang spoilers for Stormlight 5.
I know. Oh, but yeah, it's good.
I can't wait to see how next year will be, assuming we get Stormlight 5 then. It's going to be insane.
Yes, it will be. Now I'm like super pumped for it. Like I want to like reread Stormlight.
I definitely
Archive
need
now.
to reread the first 4 Stormlight before the 5th one comes out.
Yeah.
Or else I'm going to read the 5th one and be like, what happened?
Like who the crap is Cal? No, I'm just kidding. You won't get that.
That would be hilarious though. But it definitely would be that way a little bit for me because I'll read about some of the other Windrunners and be like, wait, who is that?
I don't know what it is. Roshar is definitely my favorite planet.
Mine too, 100%.
You know, it's just like so interesting and like so like a storm that cycles the whole planet and like things going on and like just the cultures, and it's just so interesting and fascinating place. And I know it's definitely a place that that Brandon's built out a lot more, and you know, that's pretty cool because I like Scadrial too.
Yeah, Scadrial is really cool, but it's kind of like, it's super similar to our planet, so it's not as exciting, but it's still super interesting. I love reading about Scadrial stuff and Mistborn stuff, really. But, well,
Anyway,
is it time to get food?
it's time to get food.
Let's go get food.
It's over.